In this video, I'm going to talk about supplemental feeds, what they are, how they work. I'm going to show you how to set one up, and then I'll also show you a few use cases at the end as to the types of things that you can do with a supplemental feed. So without further ado, let's jump into Merchant Center. So a supplemental feed kind of does what it says on the box. It supplements the information in your main product feed inside Merchant Center. So in this example here, we've got our main product feed, which is done through a content API from Shopify. And that is the main product information that we have that works inside our shopping campaigns. Our supplemental feeds down here, what we can do with a supplemental feed is to add information that is not in the main feed. We can edit information that is in the main feed if we want to change an attribute. And we can have multiple supplemental feeds if we want, or we can just have one supplemental feed with lots of different information in it. So the way it works is that Google, once you've set one of these supplemental feeds up, Google will look first at the information in the supplemental feed, and it will assign a value to whatever attributes are shown in there. And then then it will look at your main product feed. So if an attribute doesn't have a value in the supplemental feed, then it will take the value from the main feed. So that's quite an important thing to remember, is that it looks at the supplemental feed first, and then it looks at the main feed. Okay, so it's probably easier for me to just show you how to set one up, and then you'll probably get a better idea of what I mean. So if you come into your Merchant Center, you're going to go under Products, you're going to go to just Feeds, and then as you see down here, we have Supplemental. So I am just going to click the Add Supplemental Feed button. Now, again, there are multiple ways, as there are with your main feed, there are multiple ways to generate a supplemental feed. You can have it fetch a file from somewhere else. With this one, you can do a manual upload of a file from your computer, or you can use Content API. I always use a Google Sheet because I just find that it is easier for me. Okay, so I'm just going to call it a test feed for now. And then you hit continue, and it will ask you if you want to generate a new Google template sheet from a template, or whether you want to select an existing one. So in this particular option, I'm going to generate a new one. You check the box, obviously, because if you have multiple primary feeds, you might only want this supplemental feed to apply changes to one of those. So I've only got the one here, so that's fine. And there we have our test feed here. Okay. So under Google Sheets here, it says open. So I'm just going to open this Google Sheet that it has created for me. As you can see, it's completely blank. So the most important thing you need to remember with a supplemental feed is that Google uses the item ID to obviously match items and products in this feed to the ones in the main feed. So the first thing you will have to do is to download all your item IDs. Well, at least all the ones that you want to make edits with a supplemental feed. You have to download all your item IDs into a file so that you can paste them in here. So what I normally do to do that, I find the easiest way, is to go to all products there, and just across on the right here, if you just hit download, and it will download everything. Now this is a zip file, the zip, okay. It always seems to come up with this error, so I just do skip, there's my product file. Now it downloads as a TSV file, so the easiest way to do that is to actually open, in fact you could open Excel or a Google Sheet. I tend to just open Excel because that's what I have on my PC. Just take a blank workbook, then you just navigate to the file that you just downloaded. Where's it gone? You have to change it to all files here so that you can see it. And we open it and just click next, finish. Okay, so here we have all the information from our product feed. You can see over the left here, we've got title and ID. So the ID is obviously what you need to copy and paste into your Google Sheet, because that's what is going to identify the products. Now what I tend to do is paste the ID and the title just so that I know which ones I'm dealing with. So you can copy and paste. You know, I'm doing all of them, but you might only want to do this with a few of your products to make changes. and you can just paste the IDs in there. Like I said, I also paste the title purely so that I understand, I can see which product is which, because obviously that item ID is not very useful. Okay, so our supplemental feed as it stands at the moment is not going to do anything because we've got just our ID and our product title. Okay, so with two options with, as I said, with a supplemental feed, we can either change information that's in the main feed or we can add additional information. Main reason that I usually change information in the main feed is to optimize a product title. So in this example, these are all the product titles taken directly from the website. If I wanted to change one of these, all I need to do in my supplemental feed, okay, so I have these are the attribute headers, the ID and title. I will just change the title in here. Vanilla. I mean, this is obviously not very good example of an optimized title. Okay, so this title, okay, is not the same as the main feed. Once I've processed this supplemental feed, what this will do is it will change the title in my merchant center for that particular product to be the same as this here. Okay, so as you can see, if you just want to optimize your product titles, it's as simple as just editing these product titles as you go down here. Now, to keep your own for the sake of your own sanity, what I tend to do is that I will change the title. So let's undo this. So let's move this back to what it was. Okay, so we've got our original product title in here. And what I will do is I will change the title of this column, original title, because Google won't recognize original title as a feed attribute, so it will just ignore that column. Okay, and then if I want to optimize some of those product titles, because I might not want to do all of them, I will then add the column title, because Google will recognize that it's the title, and then I will just, okay, and that is now, if I just stretch this out a little bit so you can see. Okay, so now I've got this particular, I can see that this particular product, this is my optimized title. Okay, you don't have to have a value in here. It'll just ignore it. If there's no value in this column, Google will just won't do anything and it will take the normal value from the feed. But so this is how you can edit the information. So optimize your product title. You would just work down here, maybe find your products that aren't getting much exposure, products that don't have great titles, and optimize those and add lovely keywords and things like that. So you can just work your way down editing those. Okay, now another thing that you can do, as I said, is to add additional information to the product feed that isn't already there. Usual examples will be something like a color, a material, possibly gender, age group. Okay, none of these apply to this particular product, these are bath products, but just to give you an example, that I might be selling products that, you know, where a color is relevant. So all I need to do, and if I don't already have that information in the product feed, I just add a column for color, and then I will enter the value in the color column that I want it to be. So it would be pink, and this obviously is not correct, so it would be blue, pink, brown. Just a sidebar on using colors in your product feed. What you use a top level color. So if you've got cerise, pale blue, rose pink, blah blah blah, just use pink for all of them, and that allows for like filtering in the shopping results and that kind of thing. So we can add color to those which are relevant. Then if you want to add a gender, you would just add that column. If you wanted to add material, you just, whatever attributes you want to add to your feed, you just add another column, create, obviously the header of the column will be the name of the attribute, and then you enter the values in the columns underneath. Okay, as I said, if you've got things like this where you've got empty spaces, it's fine, it doesn't matter, it will just look at the ones where there is a value. So once you're happy with your supplemental feed and you've got it all set up fine, what you need to do is you need to come back into Merchant Center, go back to feeds, come down to your supplemental feed, so click onto your supplemental feed, and then you are going to, that's the button here, or there's one up here as well, you're going to fetch now. And so Google will now go off and pull that information from that Google Sheet and combine it with the information in your product feed. What you do need to remember to do as well is under the settings column, you'll see here, there's a fetch schedule, which says daily. So it's safe to think, looking at that will go and fetch that information daily. So if you make changes in the sheet, it will fetch it. But until you open it up and click enable schedule, it won't actually go and fetch that daily. So once you're happy with everything and that everything's worked okay, you need to remember to come in, enable schedule, and then come down here and hit save. So that will process for a little while. And when it's finished processing, it will come up with a little report down here. So what it's telling me here is that of the 175 items in my supplemental feed here, it's matched all 175 with items from my product, my main product feed, which is obviously what you want. Okay, so what we can do now, it does take a few minutes to update. Let me search for that product where I updated the title. Here we go. So you can see now that the title in my Merchant Center feed is Vanilla Scented Tea Lights pack of 6, which is what the new version is here, rather than set of 6 scented tea lights vanilla. Okay, and if I were to click on that product, then you'll see, if you click all the way down to see the final attributes, okay, it hasn't updated it here yet. So that's quite interesting. If you give it a minute, it takes a little while to feed through into the main product details. You can see up here, color blue. Okay, so that's how a supplemental feed works. As I said in the beginning, few use cases. I've used it mainly to update product titles and to optimize my product types. And I also use it to add additional information when you get warnings and errors in Merchant Center, where it's telling you this information is missing, that information is incorrect. You can quickly and easily use a supplemental feed to fix those kind of warnings and errors, instead of having to go and tweak websites, which is not always possible. So hopefully that's helped. If you like this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified when I publish more videos. Take care.